And now we're doing include or exclude. Okay, so when we have a dashed line, it means we exclude something. We don't want it. Okay, a boundary line. We don't want the boundary line. But when we want the boundary line, we include the boundary line. It's solid. So see, when I have greater than or less than without the equal sign, it means I don't want the boundary line. And when I have an equal sign underneath, we're going to have a solid line. It means I want the boundary line. So here, if I want these fish, I include them, I keep them together, but this one we don't want, we exclude it. So when we have a dashed line, it means we don't want the boundary line. What's a boundary line? So here between Saudi and Qatar, we have a boundary line. Okay, so if I don't want to include the boundary line, I use a dotted line. And when I want the boundary line, I use a solid line. So if I look at this here, all of these points here are part of the solution set. Okay, and see how it's dashed? It means I don't want the boundary line. Okay, that means it's excluded. Excluded. I don't want it. If it's a solid line, all these points here are part of my solution, and the boundary line is included. So that's included. Okay, so here it says draw a dashed or a solid line for the symbols. Because it looks like this, it means we don't want the boundary. So we use a dashed line. This has an equal sign, so it means we want the boundary line, so we do it solid. Here there's no equal sign here, so it means we have a dashed line. Here there's an equal sign, so we want solid. Yeah, because there's a solid line here, or an equal sign, we do it solid. No equal sign means we don't want it, it's excluded. Here, there's no equal sign, so it's dashed. And here there's an equal sign, so it's solid. So if there's an equal sign, it means we want the points on the boundary line, and if there's no equal sign, we don't want the boundary line, and it's dashed. Okay? So here, all of these points here are a solution to this. Okay? But because this is dashed, it means I don't want the boundary line. Okay? So it says, where is the solution set? So the colored line, the colored part, this area is called the solution set. So let's go, my pencil's broke. Solution set. This blue part is the solution set. Where is the boundary line? Right here. This is the boundary line. Boundary line. Does the solution set include or exclude the boundary line? Because it's dashed, it means we exclude. We don't want the boundary line. And see, this is dashed, and this does not have an equal sign. So we know it's exclude. So where is the solution set here? It's the colored part. So this is the solution set. And it says, where is the boundary line? This dashed thing here, this is the boundary line. Boundary line. And do we exclude or include the boundary line? Because it's dashed, it says we don't want the boundary line, so it's exclude. Exclude means we don't want it. So where is the solution set? Here. All of these points make this true. So this is the solution set. All of these are good points to make this true. Where's the boundary line? Yeah, this red dashed thing. That's the boundary line. Boundary line. Do we include or exclude the boundary line? See, it's dashed. See, there's no equal sign, so it means we don't want it. We want to exclude. We don't want the boundary line as part of the solution set. Here, my solution set is here. All of these points here will make this true. So if I take the point here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, negative 2, if I substitute this point into here, it will be true. If I take this point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, If I take this point and substitute it in here, it will make it false. So all of this makes it false, and all of these points make it true. Where's the boundary line? Yeah, the solid line. This is a boundary line. Boundary line. Do we want the boundary line as part of the solution set, or do we want to exclude it? Because it's solid, because it has an equal sign, we want to include. We want this boundary line as part of the solution set. That means if I take a point that's on this boundary line and I substitute it into the equation, it will make it true. Okay? Let's look at the next one. Where is the solution set? All the colored part. Where is the boundary line? Yeah, this line here. Boundary line. Is the boundary line part of the solution set or not part of the solution set? Because it's solid and because it has an equal sign, we want the boundary line. Check mark. We want it. So we want to include it. So if I take this point here to -2, because it's part of the solution set, if I put it into here, it will make this true. If I take this point here, which is -3, 2, and I put this into here, I substitute it in, it will make this false. This will make it true, this will make it false. So any point from here will make this true. Any point from here will make this false. Because this is solid and we want to include it in the solution set, any point from here will also make it true. So here, where is the boundary? No, sorry, where is the solution set? The solution set are all the things all the points that make this true. So this is the solution set. Where's the boundary line? Yeah, this dashed thing. This is the boundary line. Boundary line. Do I want the boundary line included in the solution set or not? Because it's dashed, it's saying we don't want the boundary line included in the solution set. So we say exclude it. And see, there's no equal sign here. So that means we don't want this. Okay? So here, if I take this point here, -2, 2, and I substitute this point into here, it will make it true. All of these points, if I substitute them into here, it'll make it true. All of these points over here, any point from over here, say I take this point, which is 10, 0, and I substitute it into here, will make this false. Will the boundary line be true or false? Because it's dashed, it's not part of the solution set. So if I take a point from the boundary line here, it will make it false. Okay? So now, draw the boundary line. Is it dashed or is it solid? So here, because there's no equal sign, it means it has to be a dashed boundary line, which means we don't want this boundary line as part of the solution set. Here, there's no equal sign, so again, I have to make the boundary line dashed. It means we don't want the boundary line as part of the solution set. Here, there's an equal sign. That means the boundary line has to be solid. That means we want the boundary line to be included in the solution set. That means if I take a point from this boundary line and substitute it into here, it will make this true. Here, because there's an equal sign, it means we want the boundary line to be part of the solution set. We want to include it. So, we make it solid. Here, there's no equal sign. That means we don't want the boundary line as to be part of our solution set. So I have to make this line dashed, because we don't want that to be part of the solution set. So when there's no equal sign, it's dashed, and we don't want it. Here, there's an equal sign. That means we want the boundary line to be part of the solution set. So this is included here. Okay? So if there's an equal sign, you include the boundary line. If there's no equal sign, You do not include the boundary line, and you show that by putting a dashed line.